Hi guys, this is SDJRSNF88 speaking with another Model Railway Workbench update. So to kick off this update, there's been quite a bit of progress on the ROD Baldwin 060 tank, and as you can see, the model is pretty much complete. I've added the finishing touches such as the crew to the cab, which we'll take a closer look at in a moment, coal to the bunker, and also some of the finishing pipe work as well. Now, as you might have seen in the community chat, there was a bit of discussion about the pipe work. If I bring the model a bit closer, you can see while I was trying to fit the cab, if we get in focus there, you can see some of the paint has chipped off. And of course the model was spray painted, so it mean I would have to have resprayed that part. So I didn't really know what to do. But of course this model will be weathered at a later stage along with most of my ROD fleet. So a couple of you guys said, well, just leave it like that. And of course looking at pictures, you can see quite a lot of the locos in service had chipped paint. So I decided to keep it. So I'm it's a sort of a happy accident, as Bob Ross would say. But yeah, I'm on a whole, I'm really pleased with the model. The cab has been attached, as you can see, and we've got the speaker in there. Apologies for the appalling lighting. I've got to get a new lamp up in here, but you can just see there, if you come in a bit closer, that is the crew on the footplate there. Now, believe it or not, that is actually a 3D print of myself there. And around the other side, if I just pop down the model and spin it around gently, on the other side we have my grandfather, who you also saw on the Great Model Railway Challenge, and as you can see, he's the driver and I'm the fireman. So yeah, it's a really nice little touch to have us both on the footplate. Also as well, as I mentioned, we've got the coal load, although it is very dark up in here, so you can just about see it there, but that is a realistic coal load. I used the Hatton's medium grade coal, realistic coal, and it looks just about right in there. So as you can see, we have a complete model, and I'm chuffed to bits with how it's turned out. Of course, as I mentioned, I might come back to the model at some point and add a bit more pipe work and of course the weathering, but for now I'm very happy. So I'm going to get around to hopefully doing a little running session with this model at some point to demonstrate some of the sound functions from the Digitrains modified sound decoder that I've added into this. And of course, hopefully on the layout as well, there's much better lighting as well, so you'll be able to see the model in a bit better detail. So anyway, let's move on to some of the other projects I've been working on over the past month. So in the previous update, a couple of you guys commented asking for progress on the Baldwin 040 saddle tank. And as you can see, there's been a bit of work done to it recently, and the model is now sitting on its donor chassis, which is none other, if I lift the body up, than a Hornby W4 Peckett. So the body itself, I've done a little bit of work to it. I've mainly been filing down the little blocks underneath here just so it sits a bit more lower on the chassis than the original print did. Only just a little bit. It basically means that it's sort of halfway between the HO wagons and the WO wagons that I'll be using with my ROD stuff, so it makes it look a bit more to scale. But I've been having a little think about the model. And of course, one of the most noticeable things about the prototype is there is a gap between the saddle and the cab. So I've been debating whether to cut the cab away from the saddle and add a little tiny sliver, a couple of mil in there, which will basically resemble the firebox, before then gluing the cab back to that and then reassembling the model. So I've had a little think about it, and I think it's going to be one of those things I'm definitely going to get around to doing. There is enough space on the Peckett chassis to allow for this, and it also means that I will be able to get another screw hole in there. As you can see, I tried to bore the original screws in to attach the body to the chassis, and as you can see, it's split the print here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a tiny bit of plastic card above it, and I'll be able to drill a bit more of a solid hole, and then I'm going to be doing the same here. So that extra couple of mil added to the model will mean that the little plate will be somewhere out here, and then I'll be able to put like a nut and bolt on there, which will then use the original two holes you could just see there on the Peckett chassis. I've also been debating whether to add digital sound to this one. I'm not too sure. I will be able to get it in there, but it will all be in the cab, and the decoder will have to be in the cab too, so I'll have to put sort of sheeted sort of sides on there, so to sort of maybe give the effect that the crew have had like a blackout curtains added. Of course, being a War Department loco, that would definitely be an option that these locos would have been fitted with. But apart from that, I'm very, very pleased with it. Again, I've still got to get around to replacing this ghastly handrail that I attached on there. Also as well, if I do end up cutting the model in half to add in the firebox, it does mean I'll be able to get my saw now in to try and remove these two sandboxes. But again, I'll have another little risk assessment and see if it is worth doing. But apart from that, I'm very, very happy, and I've sat the model up against the wagons now that it's sort of sitting on its chassis, and although it does look quite high, especially when sitting on the track, it actually is perfectly level with those wagons. And looking back at the pictures, it really is an interesting and weird looking locomotive, and it does sit quite high on the rails. So I feel this kit has sort of captured the look of the locomotive quite well, and once that firebox is potentially added, I think it will look a whole lot better. So I've also recently been working on installing digital sound to a number of models. First of all is this wonderful BR Blue Class 37, which I recently sold to AD, one of my fellow team members on the Great Model Railway Challenge. As you know, I visited his layout a couple of months ago, his wonderful representation of Marchwood Military Railway, which is how he remembers it when he grew up, near the site. And I mentioned that this 37 was going, and he decided to purchase it off of me on the one condition that I installed digital sound for him. So I fitted a Legomanbiffo Class 37-0 sound decoder, and it sounds really, really nice. The only issue I had was with the original speaker, especially on the great booming low notes, especially when thrashing, the speaker tended to rattle. So I basically refitted a new speaker, which happens to be a Rail exclusive Baby Boomer, and it has made all the difference, and the model really does sound superb. I mean, the sound quality of that sound recording on that in that 37 is absolutely superb. I've got a short running session of that locomotive undergoing testing on the layout coming up in the not too distant future, and I'll include a clip in this video. However, that is done with the standard speaker, and there is a bit of a tinny rattle, especially when I do the thrash pull away. But that has now been sorted, and I hope to bring you a video of that model in action when I deliver it to AD on his Marchwood Military Railway. So it's not just the Class 37 I've been working on, I've also installed digital sound into another Oxford Rail ROD Dean's Goods. This time it's the Dean's Goods from the Bosch Buster and Dean's Goods train pack. Now, like my other ROD Dean's Goods, I removed the sound decoder from a donor Dean's Goods that I also had available. As some of you may recall, I had a sound fitted BR Black Dean's Goods, which then became a ROD Black Dean's Goods. And some of you guys commented on those videos that there's a distinctive sort of hum coming from the model. So on our bit of further investigation, I removed the sound decoder and ran the model on analog, and found that the hum is coming from the model, and that hum at low speed drowns out the sound from the sound decoder. It sort of ruins the atmosphere that the sound decoder generates. So what I decided to do is basically put in a blanking plate, so the model now runs solely on analog, and the locomotive itself will be used hopefully on one of my future ROD exhibition layouts, so there is use for that locomotive still. However, it meant I had a spare sound decoder, so I went off to my local model shop, Signals Models, and purchased the non-sound fitted ROD Bosch Buster train pack. So like the other ROD, I then just took the tender off, put the decoder in and started it up, and it really does sound wonderful. So now I have these two ROD sound fitted Dean's Goods. The one thing I've been really wanting to do is double head the pair. Doing a bit of research on the ROD and train formations, it turns out that ROD Dean's Goods often double headed, especially in the area where they were serving. So I thought it'd be a great idea to try and recreate this. So after playing around with my digital controller, I've not really got used to using multiple trains on it yet, so I've had a bit of fun of running the two back and forth on the same system. I then figured out how to pair the two together to do a double header, and the results were absolutely amazing, and it's just what I was after. So I filmed only a brief little running session, which I'll pop a little link at the top of the screen now as to when I get around to uploading it. But I'll include a clip now of the two in action with the Bosch Buster Railgun, which is also included in the set. So I guess that's all for this update, and as always I hope you enjoyed insight as to what I've been working on over the past month or so. So as you all seen in a recent channel update, I'll pop a little link at the top of the screen now for those of you who haven't, and of course in the description below. There's some very exciting news in that update about me getting a new job. So of course stuff like this will probably end up going on hold for a bit of a while, so I do apologise if there's going to be a bit of a gap between this episode and the next Workbench update. You never know, the next time you see a Workbench update we may even have a totally new workbench, in fact a proper workbench, because as I mentioned before, this is just a raised bit of the floor in my loft at the moment, and of course with the appalling lighting. So hopefully we might have something a bit better next time round. But as always, I hope you enjoyed this update, and feel free to leave a comment of what you thought of the progress, of things you would like to see done in the not too distant future. And as always, this has been SDJR Son of 88 speaking, and thanks for watching.